Hey, it's James here from GoodGuitarist.com, and today I'm going to show you a cool blues thing that you can easily do on guitar, and I'm going to show you how to go from this all the way to this. And there's going to be a few steps in between that. And by the end of this, you're basically going to know 5 different ways to play blues rhythm bassline stuff, and this is awesome for showing up to jam sessions. And instead of just playing the same old chords over and over again, or maybe somebody else is already playing those chords, you can do this to add to the music. Everything that we're going to be covering today, I have it tabbed out and it's in a printable worksheet. I'm going to put that on my Patreon page. There's a link down below. You can find out all the details and figure out how all that stuff works down below. Otherwise, we're going to get started with our very first comping style. And by the way, comping means complementing or accompaniment, depending on who you ask. And this one's really simple. We're going to do a blues in E, and we'll start off with the E power chord. That's just the thickest string and then the second fret of the A string, of the next string. And we can play that with just one finger, and make our power chord super simple. And, we just do that kind of thing, just downstrokes. Or we can even just go 2, 3, 4, just keep it super simple. And then we move this whole thing over to the next string. So I have the open A string plus the second fret of the D string. And that gets me the A power chord. And finally, for the B power chord, we have to use 2 fingers for that one. We're going to put our index on the second fret of the A string. That's the note B. And then our ring finger goes on the next string 2 frets higher. So the 4th fret of the D string. And that shape is the power chord. It's this awesome movable shape that you can use for tons of stuff, right? So you should be familiar with it regardless. Anyways, with just those 3 chords, with that E, and then the A, and then the B, we can play a really simple blues. If you're not familiar with the chord order for the blues, I have a separate lesson where we talk about everything, the theory behind it, the 1, 4, 5, and all that stuff. So if you've never really played the blues before, I recommend checking that out first. Anyways, moving on to those 3 simple chord shapes, we can add a boogie woogie pattern, which is like a blues shuffle thing. And it would go like this. And we're just building on what we already did. We take our chord shape. In this case, I'll start with E, the E power chord. And then to that, I'm going to add my ring finger 2 frets higher than my index. So we're alternating between our index and our ring. And I want you to leave your index down if you can. That's a really good habit. And we just kind of go like 1, 2, 3, 4. So each number, I'm doing 2 downstrokes, with my shuffle pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. With the swing feel, I have a separate lesson for a swing feel if you want help, counting it out. And then for A, the exact same thing, but we just move it over 1 string. And now for B, we're going to play our power chord, and then we have to reach with our pinky finger. And, it's going to be 2 frets higher than your ring. And this was one of the first roadblocks that I faced when I was learning how to play electric guitar. That seemed impossible to me. But one way that helped me a lot was to practice higher up the fretboard because the frets are smaller, So instead of trying it down here at B, that's like end game stuff with the frets so wide. We can maybe try it up here, like at the 10th fret. My index is on the note G. Or wherever is comfortable, just try to move it around. Say you're like, oh yeah, I can do it really comfortably at the 8th fret. Then tomorrow, maybe try it at the 7th fret, and see how far you can go. And after a week or 2, you might eventually be able to make your way down to this B, nice and comfortably. That's my teacherly advice for you. That's the systematic way to get it. Either way, you put those shapes together and this is what you get. And that, plus that plain power chord style, are going to provide you with you show up to that, you could just do that at a jam, you know, and that's going to give all the fundamental low end that you need. And if somebody else is just like strumming the open chords or somebody else is taking a solo, that's the perfect accompaniment. It's not going to get in the way. Now I want to move into something with a little bit more motion. From here on out, it's all going to be single note stuff. So that boogie woogie thing that we just learned is actually technically the hardest part of this lesson. You know, the rest of it is going to be easier in terms of reaching the notes, and definitely a bit cooler. The one that I want to learn first goes like this. So we start with the open string, you know, we're on the E, and I'm going to play that other note too. I'm going to have my finger there already. I play O, and then I reach my ring finger to the 4th fret of the thickest string. And then we have the 2nd fret of the A string, which, you know, same note we press when we're playing our chord. And then the 4th fret of the A string. So that's why we learn this in layers, you know, we're thinking about that chord shape still, and we're just adding 2 notes to it. And we just go O, 4, and then 2, 4. You know, we just do that a few times, 4 times, and then we would do it 2 times on A, back to E 2 times. And now here, when we get to this part of the blues, on the B chord, we're going to start on the 2nd fret of the A string. That's the, you know, the note B. And then we're going to play the 6th fret, which is way here. It's still 4 frets higher, but we're further up the fretboard, so it feels a little bit different. You know, we're in a closed position, so to speak. And I would use my pinky for this, and then my middle finger on the next string on the 4th fret, and then my pinky on the 6th fret. And it's a bit of a different fingering, but going to be great for like getting your fingers working. You could also slide into that note and just use your index and ring for the whole thing. That's a great way to play it too. And when you put that all together, I'll just play the last part of the blues, the turnaround. Or we could even add that rhythm to it. Now, for the next 2 iterations, we're just going to build on this. We're going to start off the same way with the same 4 notes, but once we get to the top note, we're going to go to the next string at the 2nd fret. And this is the octave. And then we're going to go back down and go in reverse. So we go up, and then down. And when we do it for the A string, it's the exact same thing, but all 1 string higher. And then, you know, we go between E and A, and in the blues, once we reach the B chord, we don't have enough beats to do this whole thing, so we just play the first little bit. You know, we only have 4 beats, and that's exactly what we did last time. And for the A chord right after that, we cut it down the same way. So basically, this sequence fills up 2 measures. So when we look at our blues, we can fit it everywhere. You know, we can do it 2 times at the start because it fills up 2 measures of E plus 2 measures of E. Then it fills up that 2 measures of A, fills up that 2 measures of E. But we only have 1 measure of B, so we're just using the first half of it. We only have 1 measure of A, just using the first half of it. And then we have enough time for the whole thing on those last 2 measures of E. So here's how that would go. Finally, we're going to take that line and we're going to add some blues notes to it. So it's very similar, but on that 2nd note, instead of playing the 4th fret right away, I play the 3rd fret with my middle finger and I hammer into the 4th fret in 1 swift motion. just makes like a little decoration or embellishment on that note. And we continue just like before. But instead of going to the next string, to the octave, we're just going to add our pinky here to get the flat 7. So we end up with, and on the way down, I'm not doing that hammer-on thing, I'm just playing the 4th fret. But we go up and down, up, with that hammer on, go to the flat 7, and we come back down, and then we just shift that over to the A chord, get the same thing, but starting on the A string. And just like before, we don't have enough time to do the entire thing on the B chord. We're just going to do the first half of it. So in this case, play the 2nd fret, then I slide from the 5th fret to the 6th fret, and then I finish up my lick. And then for our final A chord, same thing. We do the shorter version, but I do the hammer on there because it's nice and comfortable. And when we put that all together, this is what we get. So there you have it, 5 different things that you can do on a blues in E. And you could actually put this into any key with just a tiny bit of fretboard knowledge. And we'll go over that in a future lesson. If you want a printable version of all this, that's on my Patreon page. I also have a full run through of each of these, me playing the blues in E, using each of these different styles in a short little video there. So you can see the whole thing all the way through and practice along with me. That's also on my Patreon page as a little bonus, so you can check that out. Also, if lead guitar excites you and you want to go further with it, I have a course, The Complete Lead Guitarist, and that's designed to teach you a bunch of stuff like this in a step-by-step way, from start to finish, starting at an absolute beginner all the way to being able to confidently take a solo, to show up to a jam session and just pull it off. And I'll put a link to that in the corner. Otherwise, have a fun time practicing and take care. I'll see you soon.